everybody, this is Candace. Welcome back to day 49 of my 100-day health challenge. So tonight I was totally just comfy, got home. It's cold outside, it's cloudy, there's moisture in the air. It feels like it's gonna snow even if it's not. And it was actually a fun day and everything. It was just, I got home and I was like, I had my food and my coffee. I know coffee this late at night, yeah, not the best decision, but I was all comfy, cozy on the couch, curled up. And then I will be totally honest here. I was like, I do not want a video right now. I mean, I wanted a video, but I was like, I do not want to go upstairs. I do not want to set things up. I mean, usually when I video by just holding the camera, it's because I have no other place to put it. Either, for example, I was house sitting this weekend and I didn't really have a good place. Or sometimes, if something, the setup I have isn't working. But tonight it was genuinely I just kind of want to hold it, get this over with. I do love videoing, but it's dang, sometimes I was so tired and so comfy. And I'm not gonna lie, the only reason I even came up to fix this was because the internet was being stupid. And so I had to actually come and unplug it and let it reset. Otherwise, I probably would have just been holding this and just done a quick thing. And so confession time tonight was just no, this is Sunday evening and I just want to sit and eat and drink my coffee and just watch something or listen to music and just sit here and in the heat and not have to worry about going upstairs and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, I am here. Sorry if that sounds so apathetic. It's just it's literally, this is one of those days where I'm I could have just sat there and been totally fine. But I did show up anyways. Not that that's not much of an accomplishment. I'm literally walked up the stairs, unplugged the internet, went in and did a couple things in the other room. And then literally I'm sitting on the couch up here with my setup. I was this is sad, but this is me on the Sunday where I'm oh man, I need to just, go back to bed. Actually, it's been a really good day. I helped out with computer stuff at church today, and I love my group of people in worship and media team and everything. They're just amazing, and it is, I feel like I sometimes don't laugh anywhere near as hard as I do until sometimes with this group on Sunday. I mean, when I get to actually talk to my coworkers at school and when I get to talk to my student, well, okay, that sounded stupid, but sometimes, the students are tired. And so things that I think are funny, and then they look at me you're ancient. And I'm I'm not that old. But it's they look at you you're ancient and that joke was not funny. And you're I thought it was good, so I'm over here laughing. And so then it's and sometimes you get to tell other teachers, and then sometimes everybody's in and out of the teacher's lounge. And I do laugh a lot when I'm in the teacher's lounge and there are other teachers around. We just have a blast sometimes. And I mean, sometimes it turns into hey, we need to unwind and debrief what's going on today. But a lot of times it's just this gut-splitting laughter of just this hilarity and everybody loves it when there's food, and it just creates this whole environment. So I do have that a lot of times. But there is something to be said about the group of people I work with on Sundays that are just, they are hilarious and they just make my day. And not in the bad way, make my day. No, man, my brain, I'm all over the place right now. But anyways, you're I'm turning this off. Don't turn it off. Well, okay, if you want to, you can. I need to just stop and keep going. I'm totally rambling right now. But no, there is a genuine, I will say, I have really enjoyed different churches I've gone to at different points in life, but I've also had a lot of ones where I was I can see why people don't go to church and why people don't like church. And I really don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, it's maybe a critical way of yeah, there are totally churches out there I wouldn't go there at all. So judgmental, so uptight, so not in a good challenge you to improve your life kind of way and to actually do what's right. It's in the whole this self-righteous kind of way. And I'm sorry if I'm offending. Well, okay, I'm not really sorry I'm offending some of you. It's not meant to be offensive. Unfortunately, some of you might find that offensive either way. I just genuinely mean that as like I have a home church now where I feel accepted, and I feel like people by no means are gonna let you get by with crap. I mean, we all have our flaws, our issues, right? So no, we're not saying like we're gonna let you just keep doing that, because that's not healthy. But it's like you also like, I know not everybody believes this, but this is what I believe. And it's like, there is this thing of where like, God loves you just the way you are, right where you're at in this moment. But then there are times where he loves you too much to leave you there, because he always wants you to be, actually all the time, he loves you too much to leave you where you are right now, because there's always improvement to be made. There's always better things. There's always better things you can be doing, better health, better, blessings in the future and stuff. So it's like, I guess by that, this is a whole part of spiritual health, by the way. I don't mean to be preachy, but I just genuinely want you to know, like, we are, even if you don't believe in anything, or you say that you believe something else, that's, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that, I wouldn't agree, but that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation or be a friend with you. I'm just saying that we are spiritual beings, and so we have a mind, soul, and a spirit. Body, soul, and spirit. And usually soul is, we talk about that as being like your mind and your emotions and that kind of thing. And so your spirit, though, everybody has a spirit. Everybody has this part of them, this being, this soul, this eternal spirit. And I don't mean to be kind of like way out there or anything either. I'm just, I'm rambling all over the place, and I hope this is actually making sense, and that you're hearing me here, because it's just, to me, like, this is actually something, it's funny, because this is something I've been thinking about today. And other days too, but I actually was thinking about this today, and then I was like, I'm too tired to talk about this, but I guess not. I guess God's like, nope, you're gonna talk about this. Because I'm processing through this, so I want to talk about it. Health. When we talk about the realms of health, to me, the very first realm that is so important is spiritual health, because ultimately our bodies are temporary. As much as we don't like to talk about mortality, and people don't like to talk about death, and I'm not saying we focus on death by any means. We want to live life and live it to the fullest, but there is this part of us, our bodies are mortal. And yes, I believe our spirits are eternal. Our spirit and soul, the parts of us that make us ultimately who we are, they go beyond death. And so, and I hope, some of you, I believe that even if you don't believe the way I do, that this is relevant to you, because humans, even the most anti-religious person, has a deep desire to understand the mysteries of life and the universe and humans. I would say that's a valid point. Some of our villains of history, who I say in quotes, I'm not saying there aren't evil people, or at least things they do that are evil. I think all of us have the capability for evil, but I think even the people who made the most, what we call evil decisions in the world, they have a story, and they were seeking to know the mysteries of the universe. Now, that was not okay, the things they did. But I would say that humans on the whole, no matter what you believe, there is this yearning to know the mystery of the universe, and to know the mystery of why we're here, who we are, what is humanity about, what's the universe about. Is there a deity? Is there not? Are there deities? Are there not? Is it science? Is it religion? Is it both? These are the questions I think we all encounter, and we have this insatiable curiosity at some point to know, and especially, to know why is the world the way it is? What part do we play in the world? Why are we here? How do we make use of our time here? What happens after we die? Those kinds of things that, I'm not trying to be morbid or, negative here. I just think that genuinely spiritual health is one of the first things we need to look at when we're talking about health and wellness. And so, regardless of your beliefs, you have this part of you that wants to know these things and is curious about them. And so I'm not by any means trying to belittle what you believe, what you think. I may not agree, but I'm not saying that we can't have conversations. I love to have conversations with people and actually talk through. And yes, I'm open to changing my thoughts on some things. There are some things that, no, I believe this way. And then there's others where I'm like, no, I think that's a compromisable, like we could talk about this, because I'm open to hearing what you have to say. And even if I wasn't planning to change my belief, I want to talk. I love having those conversations, and I have friends in other religions and I have friends with other views. And I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy and important. I think we've gotten to this mindset these days. I encounter this a lot with my students, this oftentimes closed-minded. And it's not just my students, it's in a way that it's almost an innocent closed-minded, if I can say it that way. It's not that they're ignorant. In some things they just don't know. That's why we teach, right? We're trying to help them learn, not just teach at them, but help them learn and process. But I do think there's this, as a child and as a teenager, there is this innocent curiosity and this want to know, but oftentimes not understanding, and then having this sort of closed-mindedness of, it's not that they're trying to be cruel or mean. I mean, kids certainly can be, and usually it's not ill-intended. But I think that adults especially have this very closed-minded idea that if you don't agree with me, man, you're out. Like, I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to not talk to you. And to me, I think the beauty of meeting people who have different beliefs than you, who have different thoughts on life, and who want to talk and argue in a healthy way, not just like devolving into like, yeah, you're stupid and whatever. Like, no, that's dumb, because that's not even an argument. That's just basically, we're going to throw insults at each other that usually are like elementary playground level. Man, I'm really rambling tonight, so I hope you're following any of this. It's fine if you're not. But genuinely, I think that part of spiritual health is not only contemplating what you see the world as, and like researching and talking to people and learning and deciding for yourself what you believe the way things are, but also I think it's incredibly important to not just get into a community where everyone agrees with every word you say. That is not healthy. Like, there should be some healthy tension, some healthy arguments, some healthy discourse on why are things the way they are. I love the fact that I have people at church who don't agree with what I say. We all agree on what we believe are fundamental, like absolute, truth. And that's okay. I mean, you probably have people you agree with who you're like, these are the things that I absolutely believe. And then there's things that are compromisable. And I don't mean that in like I guess what I mean that is like, there are things that I'm not 100% on. I know what I've researched and I know what I believe right now. Do I believe that's ultimately a concrete, final thing? No, because I don't know everything. If I knew everything, I'd be God, or goddess, or whatever. And that's not true whatsoever. So I am a flawed human. And so I look at it as spiritual health is, one, knowing what you believe about yourself and the world around you and the universe and the people around you and like the spiritual side of things. And then two, having a community that supports you and challenges you, who shares those beliefs to encourage you. But also then I think beyond that is to be open to discussion and interaction with other spiritual beliefs than your own. And I think it helps you to grow as an individual. It helps encourage this communication between differing thoughts without feeling like it's one way or the other, or just like my way or the highway. Like, that should not be the case. Even if you believe there is one truth, that doesn't mean you can't have conversations with other people in a respectful and manner. I mean, it's okay to respectfully agree to disagree. I do that all the time with people I know. And so I just would say those are three key things to spiritual health: is know what you think, have people who support and agree with what you think, but who will also challenge you. And then 3, have people who don't agree with you, totally disagree with you, who you can have conversations with and know that they're going to respect you and it's a safe environment and you provide the same thing. Because we should never stop learning. And we also should never have people just parroting back at us the exact same thing, because that's where the danger lies, when we become ignorant and closed-minded and unwilling to talk. And that's not a good thing. So anyways, that was like way kind of not what I had fully intended to talk about, but it's a relevant piece of information. So spiritual health, I think, is first. Then I actually think mental and emotional health, which are so tied to spiritual. Mental and emotional are kind of like the soul. In my opinion, I know there's differing thoughts on this, and I've debated and done research on it and debated back and forth. But I think that ultimately, soul really is made up of more like the mind and the emotions. It's not the spirit, the deepest spirit. It's not the eternal. Well, okay, it isn't. And again, I'm not a theologian. I am not a expert. I don't think there are experts in this because we don't fully know these things. I try my best to research, and so I'm hopefully not sharing false information with you. I'm not trying to. These are just things I'm contemplating and processing through, and it's relevant to health. I think this is so important because we need to know ourselves. I love today, it was interesting in the message today, talking about, and this was in other contexts, but similar, of sometimes we need to look at ourselves first. We would love to find all the answers out there. We would love the problem to be outside of us. We would love to be the problem to be with other people or other things or the environment and not ourselves. I thought it was funny because we were talking today about like how we have lots of solutions for other people's problems, but we don't really like to look at ourselves and have to deal with the issues we have ourselves. And so I think that's so appropriate, because it's the same way I've been trying to look at it. Is it's not selfish to look at yourself and to both take care of yourself and applaud the things that you're doing well, the things you're improving on and growing on. That's okay. That's valid. And that's good. But it's also important to also see where the flaws are and the places you can improve. And that's why I think it's incredibly important to not have just like yes men surrounding you who never challenge you. I do believe support and encouragement in the same things you're thinking and dealing with, because we don't need people insulting us all the time. But then I think it's incredibly and critically important to have people who totally don't agree with you, but who are willing to talk in a safe environment. It's the same way with any area of health. I'm not just talking spiritual here. I'm talking about any area of health. I do think we need to be incredibly careful when we come to spirit, emotion, and mind, because these are foundational, deep, vulnerable areas. So I am not telling you to be vulnerable with just whoever. There is such a thing as oversharing, either because of you, like for your own health, or for others. There is a way to share without triggering other people. It's not that you intentionally do it, but it's like it's careful. It's good to be careful of your environment, who you're talking to, both for yourself and their sake. So for example, if you are sharing a story about some traumatic experience you have, be aware of your audience. Are you addressing an audience who has the same kind of traumatic experiences? So in that case, think about what's triggered you and be very careful how then you share, because maybe you've started healing. Maybe you have the scar, but you're healed. But they are still raw, wounded. Just think about how you were when you were in that situation and what would and wouldn't have. And I'm not saying you can do that perfectly. We are human. We are flawed. We can apologize and try to mend things when we mess up, because we're going to mess up. But I would say that that's very incredibly important with spiritual, mental, and emotional health, is to be vulnerable and open when you feel ready. Yes, challenge yourself, go out of your comfort zone, but there is such a thing as being ready to share and not sharing too early because of other pressures. Make sure you're sharing for the right reasons. Who are you sharing with? Is this a safe place for you to share where you know they're not going to share what you're telling them? Sometimes you tell people and they surprise you, and you didn't realize they were going to be the ones that weren't safe to share with. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm just saying, to the best of your ability, try to really feel and pray and think and process of like, who is a safe person to share with, who's not, who maybe needs to hear these things. Maybe this person is not in this place yet. Maybe you're further along in the healing than they are. Maybe they're further along in the healing than you are. And so maybe you need to not talk to them quite yet about this sort of thing if you're not ready. And always also being able to adjust course. Like if you start to overshare and then realize, oh my gosh, I'm triggering somebody, being willing to admit that and say, I'm so sorry. You know, like I wanted this to help, never to hurt. And I'm sorry it did hurt you. Because that is the reality. Sometimes we unintentionally hurt people, but that doesn't mean we make excuses for it. We can still apologize and then work to fix that problem. So I'm, again, not trying to ramble around here, but this is just some stuff I've been processing. I think spiritual obviously is the first and most important place to look at health, no matter what your beliefs are. And then mental and emotional are pretty tied. I'd say, I think they're so tied, it's hard to pick one or the other. I think mental health influences emotional health so greatly, and then vice versa. So I think looking at those and saying, which one are you struggling with most? Usually the emotions come from memory and from mental experience. So I would say oftentimes, not all the time, oftentimes your beliefs and what your brain is processing and saying and thinking and all that affects then how you respond and feel. So I would say in general, mental health is first before, and then emotional. Then I would say physical, because by no means is physical lesser, but I would say there is a lot to be said about that. You know, you could be doing all the right things physically and still never be losing weight or improving because of a mental status, emotional trauma, spiritual trauma, whatever it may be. And again, these can all be out of order. I would say these are the foundational, based on the way we're created. I would say these are the things, like the way it kind of works. But again, by the way, I just want to make sure that you understand, I'm not a mental health professional. I am not a counselor or a therapist. I am not a physical doctor. I am totally sharing this based on my own experiences and my own research and what has been shared with me. So I would say to always be going back and looking at your own self, what you're feeling, thinking, and then the people who are closest to you, or even if you're going somewhere professional, you know, consulting both for physical and mental and emotional health. I just think that in general, and these are the things that I've observed and researched. So I just want to make sure we're clear there. I'm not telling you 100% to go do these things, just sharing some of my own experiences and research. And so, but I believe, so spiritual, then mental, then emotional, then physical. And then I would say relational. Relational, that is one that's also super closely tied to mental and emotional health. We all know those holiday dinners and things that I have to say, I'm usually have been very blessed to have very, very good situations in that area. But I would say there have been some other times that were way not good experiences. I mean, humans are messy. Families are even messier sometimes. I would certainly hope that yours is not beyond that. My family, I have been blessed to overall just have a really good experience where even when we're at our worst and not getting along, we still love each other, and we still do our best to try to heal together and mend relationships. I'm very thankful for that, and I hope that's what you're experiencing, but I know that's not always the case. And so I would say relational can be very much put further up on the scale, especially if it's a situation where you're trying to heal from something physical, emotional, mental, whatever, and your environment, such as your relationships, is not healthy. That can be a detriment too. And then I would say after that, personally for me, I think it goes, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social or relational. And then I think it goes occupational or job health. because again, you're interacting with humans. Even if you're like a researcher who hardly ever talks to people, you still have to interact with people on a daily basis for the most part. So I would say vocational and job is incredibly and critically important, because either you are interacting with coworkers, you're interacting with customers, or both, or somewhere along the way you're interacting with other messy humans meeting messy humans, broken humans meeting broken people. We're gonna clash. Even just the fact that different views, right? Like, I'm sharing my views, you may totally disagree, so sometimes we're gonna clash, and that's not always unhealthy, but it can be. So I would say just watching that too. And then after that, I think it's a toss-up between financial and environmental, simply because financial can be, again, so closely tied to mental and emotional health. It can be tied to past trauma. It can be tied to how we've been raised in general, not even necessarily trauma, just how we've been raised. It can have to do with the things that have come later in life. The results can impact mental and emotional health. It can be spiritual related. It can be physically related. It can be physically stressing. So I think financial is incredibly important, but environmental too. This can be just the environment around you. So again, that could be first before financial as well, because it could be that you're talking about just like what's around your home, what's around your outside environment, the people, the places, the things. That can be incredibly important too. And again, any of these can go out of order. I think I talked about that way back, where you need to choose like your top area that you're struggling in, because we all struggle in different areas at different times. It's a constant flux, which is both the beauty and the pain of life. But I would say in general that these are how they follow, because we start with the most inward identity and we move outwards to the environmental outside factors. So I think that's why I put them on a spectrum like this, and I've seen that repeated a lot. I know different people disagree, so I'd encourage you to do your own research, but I guess that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, is we literally have this spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social or relational, vocational or job health, then financial and environment, I'd say pretty closely tied. So yeah, I this kind of totally ended up going way off on another topic in some ways than I'd planned. I will be honest, I mean, half the time I show up and I'm literally talking to myself. Like, I'm teaching myself and trying to share. But my ultimate thing here is to be sharing, to leave trail markers for the people who are coming behind me, just like people did for me. Life is a rocky road, rocky roads. And not the good kind of rocky road, although I actually don't really like rocky road because of the marshmallows. But anyways, that's totally random. Squirrel. But on the serious note again, though, it's like we are walking a path that many have gone before us. We may be walking differently, like we may have a different connection in our paths. We may have ultimately, we all have our own unique journey. None is ever the same, but there are paths we walk that other people have walked, even if it's in a different order, different timing, different meaning. But I would say that all, like, there is nothing new under the sun. And so all the things, the bumps and the bruises and the obstacles and the challenges we run into, they're not new. Other people have encountered them. So I think seeing other people leaving behind messages and lessons and tips and advice of how to avoid some of those obstacles has been such a blessing for me. So I want to be able to do that for other people too, and say, look, these are the things, like, as I am improving my own health in these areas, here are the things that I've learned. Look at this giant rock in the path that I hope you avoid. And don't stub your toe on like I did, or hit your head on a big branch because you were looking down or looking at something. And I know that's all metaphorical, but I mean, literally it's a lot like that. So I don't know. I guess I just kind of wanted to share some of that and just talk a little bit about the different realms of health and kind of the way that I think they fall into place. And then also some random thoughts on just like how important with spiritual and mental and emotional health it is. And so I hope you kind of stuck with that and followed my ramble, and something in there that resonated with you and made sense, and or that maybe challenged something you've thought before. I love being challenged to think about things differently, or to think through and process things and challenge myself with questions I don't know and constantly be learning, especially when it comes to my health and improvement. And that's how we live life. And I'm going to leave it there. I've talked a while, and I will check in with you all tomorrow. Bye.